Piccolo. He's everybody's big green daddy.
Answer me. Who are you?
It's Big Green!
But here's a question for you. Do you know where his name comes from? Yes, everybody knows that a piccolo is a musical instrument, but is it really as simple as that? Well, on today's edition of Dragon Ball Dictionary, I'm gonna dig deeper into the true origins of Piccolo's name, and I'm gonna share with you a little theory that I have about where Piccolo's name actually came from. Let's get into it. Hey guys, Tony here, and I just want to say really quickly, thank you so much to the Dragon Ball Z Abridged community for supporting my last video about Dragon Ball Z Abridged. You guys showed up in droves, flooded the comment section, left the likes, and of course hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. And thank you to Nick from Team 4-Star. I truly appreciate your comment, your nice words. You didn't have to do that, but you bothered to check out the video and show some support. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Team 4-Star. And thank you to everybody who's been supporting me in all my videos lately. We're almost at the 5,000 subscriber mark, just a little bit more. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because I've got a lot more videos coming. Unlike a lot of other characters in Dragon Ball, Piccolo's name seems pretty straightforward. In a lot of cases, Toriyama would take an actual existing word, do something to it like mix up the syllables, elongate the syllable, and then that would be the character's name. However, in the case of Piccolo, it's exactly the same as the word the name is based on. The Piccolo, as in the flute. But there's actually a lot more stuff to say about Piccolo's name. That's because there's a lot of interesting things that happen behind the scenes that resulted in Piccolo getting his name. And so we're gonna dig into that history today. But before we do that, it's time for Tony's Pronunciation Corner. Perhaps the key point here that a lot of native English speakers might miss is the double consonant in the middle of the word.
Piccolo.
It's not Piccolo, it's Piccolo. Now, when you're speaking at a normal rate, you're not going to pronounce that middle double consonant in such an exaggerated way, but it is there, and if you don't pronounce it, Japanese people will notice that you're pronouncing it in a weird way. And one more thing is that last ro part is not an R, it's not an L, it's kind of somewhere in between. You just lightly tap the roof of your mouth, and you get Piccolo.
Piccolo Daimao!
Okay, so let's get into the history. So where did Piccolo's name come from? Well, Piccolo got his name from his dad, Piccolo Daimao, or as he's known in English, Demon King Piccolo. So we have Piccolo, and we're gonna dig deeper into that in just a moment, but then we also have Daimao. So let's break down Daimao. Dai basically just means big or great. Ma usually is translated as demon, especially in Dragon Ball, but it can also mean evil spirit or even magic. O with a long syllable can mean king, ruler, or lord, or something along those lines. So put that all together and you have the great Demon King Piccolo. Now, in case the Mao part of Daimao sounds familiar, it should, because Mao is a term that gets used quite a bit in anime and manga and games. Again, it basically just means like Demon King or Evil King, so you can imagine that it gets quite a bit of use in a lot of fantasy-focused, kind of fictional anime world and that kind of stuff. But there's actually another character in Dragon Ball who has Mao in his name, and that is
Ox King! Yes, the father of Chi-Chi and the grandfather of Gohan. So his name in Japanese is Gyumao. Yes, you hear that same Mao. So his name literally translates to Cow Demon King. Now, that doesn't mean that he's a demon king, or at least not in the purest sense of the word. I don't think he has pointy ears. Let's take a look. Well, you never know. They could retcon that and they turn him into a demon. They like retconning stuff. But as far as we know, he's not an actual demon. That's just a title. And actually, he's named after a character in Journey to the West because there were a lot of characters in the early part of Dragon Ball that were named after characters in Journey to the West or based on them. And there's an actual character named Gyumao. That's the Japanese pronunciation. And so Toriyama just took that character and reworked it into this guy.
Anyway, so where did Piccolo get his name from? Well, that is an interesting story. So you see, up until the Demon King Piccolo saga, Dragon Ball was pretty lighthearted and comedic. Yes, there were some serious moments throughout Dragon Ball. Perhaps most notably is the moment when Tao Pai Pai kills Upa's dad Bora. This was kind of like Toriyama dipping his toes into more serious storytelling. But even though this moment foreshadows that Dragon Ball will take a more serious turn later on down the line, it's still, for the most part, a comedic series. Even Tao Pai Pai himself, the person responsible for this moment, is still a pretty comedic character.
Aloha!
On the other hand, the Demon King Piccolo saga doesn't have that much comedy. Yes, there's a few moments here or there with the Pilaf gang and, of course, Yajirobe, but for the most part, it's much more serious. The reason for this is, of course, Demon King Piccolo himself. He's not a comedic character at all. He is serious, he is evil, and he just wants to watch the world burn. But here's the thing, when it came time for Toriyama to write a villain like this, a villainous, evil villain, he had some trouble. According to Torishima Kazuhiko, who was Toriyama's first editor, Toriyama had difficulty writing truly evil villains.
その辺のところでも苦労が一つありまして、鳥山さんなかなか悪いやつ書けないんですよね。で、ピッコロっていうのが出てくるまで結構苦労しまして。
And so, in order to help Toriyama come up with a truly evil villain, what Torishima would do is he would contact Toriyama every day, and every single day he would tell him about some famous figure from world history who was thought to be evil.
で、僕は毎日歴史上の悪いって思われてるやつの、名前とエピソードを一日一つずつ語ってったんですよ。
One day, Torishima told Toriyama about the Roman Emperor Nero. Basically, Torishima explained that it's said that Nero was a sadist who enjoyed watching people suffer and scream.
で、こいつは佐渡で、
暴君ネロですね、いわゆる。
人が苦しむとか、叫ぶっていうそういうのを見るのは何よりのね快感に思うって言ったら、彼の中であって、
なんかこう
それはすごく悪いやつだってよくわかる、それでピッコロが出てきたんですよ、でそこからドラゴンボールの戦いがものすごく緊迫、ピッ
コロ大魔王ね、
そこから勝ったんですね。
Now, I'm not an expert on Roman history, so whether Nero actually was a sadist or not, that's not for me to answer. But the point is that Toriyama heard this and it helped him understand, oh, okay, so that is how an evil character would behave. This is someone that I can model my villain after. But here's one more thing that should be mentioned. It's also said that Toriyama modeled Demon King Piccolo after Torishima. In fact, even Torishima himself said this in the interview that I've been showing you.
初代の僕がピッコロにいてて、2代目の担当がフリーザにいてるんですね。3代目の担当が武田って言うんですけど、これがね、V にいてるんですよ。歴代悪が全部担当編集の顔なんですよ。
But it's not as simple as that, because in an interview, Toriyama kind of denied this. Basically, Toriyama said, I don't remember doing this consciously, but it's also possible that I might have done it, and if I did it unconsciously. So this is a rather soft denial. Toriyama is still leaving the door open that this was possible, and we do know that Toriyama was quite forgetful, so maybe he did forget that he modeled Boo and Frieza and Demon King Piccolo after his editors. It seems like something hard to forget, but you never know with Toriyama. Once he was done working on something, it just left his mind. It's also possible that Toriyama was just trying to be polite here. He didn't want to get into the past and talk about how Torishima was demanding and very strict, and so that's why he based the face of Demon King Piccolo after Torishima. And by the way, Toriyama had already created a character directly inspired by Torishima. That character is from Dr. Slump, and his name is Dr. Mashirito. And finally, I should just acknowledge that, yes, it's possible that Torishima just made up this whole thing about the three villains being based on the three editors, at least in terms of their physical appearance. I don't really think that's the case. Torishima is a reliable primary source. We've gotten a lot of information from him, and I haven't seen any sources that say that, oh, this was a lie or anything like that. So I'm willing to believe him, but for the purposes of this video, I don't really want to focus on that because it's not really relevant. What is relevant is whether Emperor Nero was a source of inspiration for Toriyama. As far as I can tell, yes, he absolutely was. I haven't been able to find any evidence that points to the contrary, and if you look at Demon King Piccolo, who he is as a character and what he does, yeah, it makes total sense that he would be inspired by the popular conception of Emperor Nero. So once Toriyama had the concept down for the character, I assumed that next would come the character design, and of course at some point he would have to give the character a name. As you may remember from my video about Saiyan and how you pronounce it and the origins of the word Saiyajin and all that stuff, well, in that video I mentioned that Toriyama liked to, let's just say, do the opposite of what people would expect. And that's why the muscular space warrior race of Saiyans isn't named after meat, but rather vegetables. Now, in the case of Demon King Piccolo, we have an evil character who is very large. When asked about why he named Demon King Piccolo Piccolo, Toriyama explained that to name a bad character a bad-sounding name really has no creativity. And so instead of going with a name that sounded evil or intimidating, Toriyama decided to pick a name that was cute, and thus go against everybody's expectations. But there's another layer to this, because as you probably know, Toriyama liked to use names that fall under categories. In early Dragon Ball, he named a lot of characters after Chinese food. And then when you get to the Dragon Ball Z portion of the story, you get characters named after vegetables. The Saiyans, you get characters named after dairy products. The Ginyu Squad, you get characters named after a lot of fruit and stuff like that. Those are all the soldiers that work under Frieza. And then all those characters are named after foods that go in a refrigerator. And freezer is a name inspired by refrigerator. So you see how it all comes together. And why did he do this? Well, because it made it really easy for him to name characters. In many ways, Toriyama was a very efficient creator. It's pretty clear that Toriyama didn't like to waste too much time coming up with names, so having these categories made it a lot easier for him. So going back to Piccolo, we know that Toriyama wanted a cute sounding name to contrast with his evil nature, but he also needed a category to which this name would belong because he knew that he needed henchmen for this character who would also follow this naming convention. And so Toriyama ended up going with the musical instrument category and the piccolo for Piccolo. Now, of course, I'm sure you know, but the piccolo is a type of small flute, and Piccolo's hench demons, I guess you would say, are piano, drum, and tambourine. So they all fit neatly in this musical instrument category. But here's something that has always bothered me. Why is it that of all the categories that he could have gone with, and there's definitely some other ones, he hadn't used other food categories yet at this point, why did he decide to go with the musical instrument category? As far as I know, this has never been addressed by any official sources, including Toriyama or Torishima, which means I'm gonna speculate. So, my theory about this is that the word piccolo is an Italian word. The musical instrument comes from Italy. What else in this story comes from modern day Italy? Roman Emperor Nero. So maybe when Toriyama was trying to come up with a name for Demon King Piccolo, he was thinking about Nero, Rome, Italy. What would be a good category? Maybe pasta? Nah, pasta doesn't work. Musical instruments. What's a small musical instrument? Oh, a flute. What does that mean? And if you look up what piccolo means, you see that piccolo isn't a flute. Piccolo means small, little. For example, the French word petite, piccolo and petite share the same Latin root. So all piccolo means is small.
Piccolo, small, molto piccolo, very small.
However, in English and in Japanese, piccolo is used to refer to the flute, and even in Italian, it seems that yes, you can use piccolo to refer to the flute. However, there's other terminology I'm not too familiar, but on screen right now, see, that's the full name of the piccolo if you really want to get technical. But really, the point is that maybe, just maybe, when Toriyama was trying to come up with a name for the character, he made that connection between Emperor Nero, Italy, and the Italian musical instrument piccolo. Small, cute, that's the perfect name for piccolo. So is this true? I can't say for sure. Is it plausible? Absolutely. But can I prove it or disprove it? No, we cannot. So all we can do, like I said, is speculate, but I really, really like this theory. But really, the ultimate takeaway here is, and this is something that I hadn't really thought about until I started looking into this topic in order to do this video, Piccolo has a really funny name. And I'm not just talking about the fact that he's named after a flute. I'm talking about the fact that Piccolo, the word, means small. It means petite. So this tough, muscular, Namekian, big, powerful guy, his name is just Petite. And Gohan calls him Mr. Petite. Senor Petite. It's like, this is a joke that was there the entire time. And I think very few of us really paid all that much attention to it. But it just goes to show how much of a passion for comedy that Toriyama had. And so I'm genuinely laughing here, okay? So look, this is Toriyama bringing us joy even long after he's left us. And in these subtle ways that most of us never even really think about. But again, when you really, really think about it, this guy's name, Mr. Petite.
Hey boys and girls, my name's Mr. Petite.
Hey guys, so just a couple quick things here at the end. First of all, you may have noticed that my background is different. And really the primary reason for that is that my desk is a lot higher than usual. And that's because I have a standing desk and it broke. One of the legs stopped moving. And now my desk is stuck at a very awkward position. It's not like all the way up where I could work standing. It's not all the way down where I could work seated. Now I have to have this like higher than normal seat. And it's just weird. And so that's why my background here is like at a weird height. So I need to fix this somehow. It's such a headache. I need to either get a new desk or something. I don't know, but that's a thing. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about really briefly here at the end is you may remember 2 videos ago or 3 videos ago, I did a video about King Kai and Goku's puns the first time they meet. And I asked for people to leave me their puns and I said I would pick a winner. Well, I picked a winner, so I want to share with you my favorite pun from the comments. And I have to say, there were a lot of really good puns. So it was really, really hard to pick one, but here's the one that I ended up picking. I would say Vegeta's actions early in the series were inhumane, but thinking back on it, it'd be more appropriate to say they were insane. So thank you, Jamar. That was an amazing pun. I love that it was an original Dragon Ball pun. So Jamar went above and beyond with that one. And of course, let me know what you think about my little theory about how Emperor Nero, that whole Italian thing, might have been the inspiration for Toriyama settling on Piccolo for the name of Demon King Piccolo. I want to hear your theories. If you disagree, that's totally okay. And what do you think about Mr. Petite being Piccolo's new name? Big Green is a good one, of course, a classic, but I really like Mr. Petite as a new name for Piccolo. Anyway, subscribe, like, comment. I'll be back very soon with another, I'm pretty sure the next one is going to be a Dragon Ball video. So I'll be back soon with another one of those. See you in the next one.